Hey guys, what's up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Oh my god. 2019 was a roller coaster ride for movies. There were so many great ones that I had to make 20. These are my picks for the top 20 best movies of 2019. Now, just to be clear, this is just my list, okay? You're not going to agree with everything that is on this list. These are just my own personal preferences for my favorite films of the year. These are just you're not going to agree with everything that's on this list. In fact, you're probably going to disagree with some. You might disagree with all, but these are just the ones that I enjoyed the most. And if you're confused, like why is this? There are going to be some moments where you're going to be confused, like why is this movie higher than that movie? Why is this 4.5 out of 5 movie higher than this movie you gave 5 out of 5 to? It's going to get more confusing later down the line, specifically with two. But not number two. Two movies that are going to be on here. But anyways, enough of the chit chat. Let's get to it. And of course, honorable mention time. I have more than 10. That's right. I have 20 on this list, and I have over 10 honorable mentions. That's how good of a year this was for movies, okay? Those honorable mentions include Shazam, Blinded by the Light, Spider Man Far From Home, Hustlers, Little Women, How to Train Your Dragon The Hidden World, Fighting with My Family, Long Shot, Midsummer, Ready or Not, Dark Waters, Doctor Sleep, and Queen and Slim. I really, really enjoyed those movies and definitely think they deserve a mention for some of the best films that came out this year. But, anyways, here are the films that made it onto my list. We're starting things off with a foreign language film called The Farewell, okay? This was a really good story about a grandmother who doesn't know that she's going to die, and her granddaughter is finding ways to tell her without, making her completely scared. And this was a movie that was really intriguing, and I really felt for the characters. It had emotion, it had heart, and for an A24 film to be rated PG, they managed to knock it out of the park with this one. I almost forgot about this movie, and I didn't want to forget because this was just a fascinating film. So, yeah, it barely makes the list, but it definitely earns a spot. So, hey, at least I remembered real quickly. In 2018, Mr. Rogers had a fantastic documentary that was actually my favorite film of 2018. Although this isn't quite my favorite film of the year, it still is one of the best films of the year. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. It's the biopic and true story of Mr. Rogers as, he meets this guy who's been going through a lot. And meeting this man, he starts, growing a lot more kindness. The man, Mr. Rogers is already full of kindness. And that's the thing about this movie. Tom Hanks is easily the most amazing part of this movie. He is a great Mr. Rogers, and he found out that he's related to Mr. Rogers. He's one of the cousins, I think. But if that's true, then it makes a lot of sense because he was just fantastic in this movie. Not all franchises have gone downhill. If anything, franchises like this have gone uphill. John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. This just shows that, it's really hard for there to be three great movies in a trilogy, all three movies being fantastic. John Wick shows that he can make three fantastic movies, and there's going to be another movie. I mean, the end of the third movie definitely leads up to another movie, but if that's the case, then I'm all for it. This movie did not disappoint. It had all the fast-paced action and all the characters that we know and love, or specifically, John Wick's character because he's he's John Wick. But John Wick Chapter 3, it was just a roller coaster ride of fun, and it's easily one of the best in the series. In fact, it might possibly be the best in the series. There are a lot of true story movies that came out this year, and Ford vs. Ferrari is definitely one of the best that came out. Matt Damon and Christian Bale do a fantastic job in this movie. They're both terrific, they have great chemistry, and the movie manages to be funny and dramatic, and it can actually get really, really tense. I mean, this is a crazy movie. I mean, it really can be. But, the way that story progresses, showing that it's not really about racing, and all in all, it really floored me for its 2.5 hour runtime. I was really intrigued throughout this entire film. One of the more charming films to come out this year is The Peanut Butter Falcon. This movie was so damn good. I mean, Shia LaBeouf and Dakota Johnson and everybody else, they were terrific. I mean, a story about, a Down syndrome, I wouldn't say kid, more like teenager, running away, meeting Shia LaBeouf, and growing a friendship with him. It just had so much heart, and, fulfilling his dream as, becoming a professional wrestler. It's just absolutely amazing, okay? This is a film that I think many people should have seen. And unfortunately, because it was a limited release, that didn't really happen. But hey, it's on Blu-ray. I definitely recommend giving this one a watch. Probably one of the more controversial films to come out this year, but again, one of the most charming, Jojo Rabbit. And sure, some people might complain, "Oh, Hitler's in the movie. Oh, come on. This is psychotic. This is madness." But that's not what it's about. It's about, a boy who does want to grow up to become a Nazi, but, growing his relationship with a Jewish girl that's been hiding in his house. It adds so much to the story, and, it just shows that, if you watch the movie, it's really hard to explain. Actually, I think I explained more in my review for the film. But the movie manages to be funny. It manages to have a lot of heart. It manages to be dramatic, and all in all, it manages to be a fascinating time at the movies. This is one of those movies that just gets better the more I think about it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was honestly going to put this as an honorable mention, but thinking about it, should I really put a Tarantino movie as an honorable mention? Like, come on. It's a Tarantino film. Like, when has he ever made a bad movie, okay? Sure, not everybody liked Death Proof. I thought that was pretty good, but, when it comes to Tarantino, he manages to make works of art, and the more I think about it, this film really is a work of art. The final climax to the movie is just absolutely crazy. It's over 2.5 hours long, and people might complain that it might be too long. Some people might complain that it's boring. But all in all, I was just really intrigued by this movie. Leo and Pitt, they do amazing in this movie. And all in all, it just shows, and this movie does feel like it came out a long time ago. Like back in like the 70s or something. And that's what I love about this movie. Rian Johnson made a really controversial entry into a franchise. However, he made up for it by giving us Knives Out. Yeah, I would call this original, but, the whodunit thing has been going on for quite some time. But, it does have a bit of originality, and all in all, it manages to be a really fun time, okay? It's a smart, twisted take on the whodunit. It's gonna leave you with so many questions, and you're gonna get those answers near the end of the film. It's a crazy spin and a love letter to the whodunit genre for people who grew up with films like Clue, the original Murder on the Orient Express, and tons of other whodunit films. This is truly a fun piece of work that Rian Johnson has made. Probably his best film, and all in all, I just had a really fun time with this movie. And yeah, it's been at my theater for almost 2 months now and hasn't even left yet. Wow, that just shows how successful Rian Johnson did with this one. Of course, my most recent film that I saw and the movie that I wanted to see before I made my best of the year list, 1917. This was a fantastic movie, okay? I loved every second of this movie. It's visually stunning, okay? And its story, it just really intrigued me. I was not bored a single bit by this movie. The fact that this movie just looks like one long entire shot for 2 hours long, it's just absolutely outstanding to look at. And I really did feel something here. I mean, it manages to be emotional. It manages to bring a lot to the war genre. Well, not a whole lot, because it doesn't entirely feel like a war film. It feels more like an adventure film. And not the biggest adventure ever, but it really is an incredible one at that. What do you get when a production company takes a man who's made nothing but crappy, unfunny garbage, puts him on the big screen, and later does it on Netflix? You get Uncut Gems. Adam Sandler's truly best work yet. And it really just shows that A24 can turn, not so great actors into absolute legends again. I mean, Adam Sandler kills it in this movie. He manages to be dramatic and funny at the same time, which is something that he's most known for, is comedy. But it really isn't a comedy, it's a drama. And it's so dramatic and it gets so tense. Like, there's so many scenes of intensity that I can't just help but just get to the edge of my seat like, Oh my god. This is getting pretty crazy here. And all in all, Uncut Gems, it was a fantastic time. I really loved this movie. Alright, guys. Alright, we're getting to the halfway point here. So, you know, a lot of trilogies can meant to mess up when they add another movie. But Toy Story 4 manages to be the best animated film of the year, at least in my opinion. Sure, this movie does seem unnecessary, but the movie, it just really hit me. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I enjoyed it more than Incredibles 2, and I wanted Incredibles 2 more than I wanted Toy Story 4. Like, I did not expect to feel this emotion and laugh this hard, ever since I saw the third movie. Like, after seeing the third movie, I thought there would be a Toy Story 4, but then as I grew, I was like, I don't want a Toy Story 4, but Toy Story 4 is coming out. Yeah, I'm still going to see it. I did not expect to love it this much. Sure, it's the weakest in the series, but it's by far. I loved this movie, guys. So much so that I saw it a second time, and I don't really rewatch movies in the theaters. So Toy Story 4 did a fantastic job, making me laugh and cry. If this is the end of it, let this be the end of it. This was fantastic. It can be really hard to get comedy truly right. However, Olivia Wilde manages to do a fantastic job, nearly a flawless job, with Booksmart. This movie was so freaking funny. I laughed throughout the entire film. The two main leads do a fantastic job. It just shows that, people at school can get too caught up and just forget about having fun. And these two, they just want to have fun before they graduate, and I was really rooting for them. They were great in this movie, and it manages to bring in so much heart and so much comedy, and the friendship between these two, it's just absolutely outstanding from beginning to end. Yeah, and it's kind of become a meme lately. It's kind of hard to explain, but a lot of people have kind of made jokes about this film, but at least when I look online, not a whole lot, not as much as Cats, but hey, Cats was a terrible movie. But thank you guys. It's not the end of the damn video. Now I'm messing my stuff up. Let's just get to the next pick. Booksmart's an awesome movie. So yeah, I thought Bohemian Rhapsody was a good movie, but thinking about it, there was something missing. Something was missing. Rocket Man reminded me what was missing in Bohemian Rhapsody. Not only is this movie so well edited and so well directed, but it takes the biopic genre and it just decides to have a lot more fun while taking Elton John's songs and just making them the story about his life, and the way he puts them together into this movie, and Taron Egerton's fantastic performance, and the way he sings in this movie. He truly is Elton John in this film. And honestly, this is one of my most rewatched films of the year. I mean, this movie made me feel so good. I loved listening to the cover songs. I loved the story. I loved Taron Egerton's fantastic performance. It truly was what I wish Bohemian Rhapsody was. Again, I thought that was good, but this just blew that movie out of the water. This movie truly is amazing. I have a poster of the movie over there. I did not even expect to put it this high, but I loved it so much, I just had to. So yeah, over 10 years, and Marvel has still managed to make a crap ton of movies, and Avengers Endgame is no different. Oh my god, this is how you make an end to a franchise. Not a cinematic universe, a franchise. Sure, some people call this movie overrated, and I can understand why, but all in all, it doesn't feel like just a superhero film. I mean, not all these people don't get up together until like the very end, because only half of the Avengers, have to, get the other half back. And the way their characters are played out in this movie, it just brings in so much entertainment. Not just from the action, but from the characters themselves. They have such fantastic dialogue. It's visually stunning, and all in all, it was just a fantastic time at the movies. And for its 3-hour runtime, it managed to go by really fast for me. Alright, here's where the confusing crap starts, okay? Those last four, I gave a perfect score to. Us, I gave 4.5 out of 5 to. And this isn't the only horror movie to make my list. Now, I'll explain more when I get to my next horror movie. For now, let me just talk about how great this movie was, okay? Jordan Peele did a fantastic job with Get Out, and I still think that's better in terms of a movie. I thought this movie was better in terms of horror, okay? I was just really intrigued by this movie. I mean, it just shows that Jordan Peele has such a big mind, and putting this together, it just felt so fascinating, okay? The way he brings in his message towards the end, it's just absolutely fascinating, and it just gets really crazy, okay? Fighting against the look of yourself, it just brought in so much, and I've rewatched this movie so many times, and it just got better each time I watched it. Like, when I started working at the theater, every time that movie was on, I would go and take my breaks in there to watch clips of that, because I don't know, I just loved Us so much, and I cannot wait to see what Jordan Peele does next. Netflix has been taking over the movie theaters recently. Marriage Story is no different, okay? But, Marriage Story is an incredible film. Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver are terrific in this movie, and it just shows, even though, parents can get into a divorce, that doesn't always mean your family's going to fall apart. You'll always have family to watch your back. I mean, this has happened to me, like, so much in the past, but let's not get into that. But, this is a fantastic movie about, a couple going through a divorce while still having a great time as a family. And all in all, it just really hit me really hard. And that's something that I did not expect from this movie. Like, I knew nothing about this going in. And when I watched it, I was like, now I'm glad that I watched this movie before, the year ended. Jojo Rabbit was pretty controversial, but not as controversial as Joker, okay? Oh, Joker. This movie was crazy. It really was. But it was still freaking awesome. This isn't really an origin story. I mean, it is. It's a prequel to the entire Batman series, but Joaquin Phoenix. Nobody could play a better Joker than him. Okay, but besides Heath Ledger, they're both equally fantastic. But the way he's cast in this movie, he just gives easily the best performance of the entire year. He is fantastic in this movie, and it's so well edited and just brings in so much to his character that it's not an action movie at all. It's a thriller. It's psychological. It just blends stuff together, and stuff about society and stuff. This doesn't feel just like a movie about him. I mean, it is a movie about him, but he just brings so more to this movie, and I absolutely loved it. I did not expect to put it this high on the list than I actually intended to, but I did. Alright, you guys are gonna go in the comment section like, hey, you put this horror movie at number 2. I thought Us was your favorite horror film of the year. It is. Yes. And my number 2 spot was The Lighthouse. And yes, I thought that movie was a little bit better than Us. But here's the thing, though. The Lighthouse is less of a horror film and more thriller. I thought Us was more horror. So I thought Us was better in terms of horror. I thought The Lighthouse was better in terms of an overall film. If that doesn't make sense, then I'm sorry. But anyways, The Lighthouse. I love this movie, guys. I was just so stunned after watching this movie. It felt like a movie that came out in the 60s, like they were starting to get into, when films had more violence, when it started getting more violent and vulgar and stuff. And Robert Pattinson gives probably his best performance since Good Time. Willem Dafoe, they're excellent in this movie. It just had me so entertained and so... I am messing up my words really, really badly, but all I can say is The Lighthouse, it truly is a work of art, and Robert Eggers, he manages to make a movie that was even better than The Witch. I mean, The Witch, that was a great movie, and that just got better each time I watched that movie. And with this movie, he just shows that, he's a master, and I think he should make more horror films. And films in general. Alright. 2 more movies left. 2 more movies. What could be number 2? What could be number 1? My number 2 spot has to go to none other than Parasite. This is another movie that I just felt like I just had to see. I had to see. I looked everywhere. It's playing at a theater, and I just went to go see it. This movie feels like two movies mixed into one. The first half feels very comedic and dramatic. The last act, the second act, is an absolute thriller, okay? Every character, I was really interested in the story that the characters had in this. And the story to the movie, it's really hard to explain, but it's a movie that everybody should watch. I mean, my sister is into Korean stuff, and she saw this movie as well. She thought it was alright, but I could get where she was going with that. But, this movie just had so much going for it. It made me laugh. It made me, go, WTF, what just happened? Especially towards the end, like the last 20 minutes, it just goes absolutely insane. And it's just a mind bender movie. Sometimes it has some claustrophobic moments, not entirely claustrophobic, but it has some really, really tense moments. Like, it's something that I wasn't entirely expecting, but this movie managed to be a work of art and is one of the best foreign language films I have seen in quite a long ass time, and that's saying a lot right there. Alright, guys, we have come to my number one pick, and it should be quite obvious. What is the film that I watched the most? What is the film that I was entertained with the most? That, of course, is none other than The Irishman. Martin Scorsese's latest film manages to be another masterpiece from him. I loved every second of this movie, guys. It was easily the best theatrical experience I had in 2019. It was so great seeing a movie that was coming out on Netflix 2 weeks early in the big screen, but that's not just why it makes my top spot. Martin Scorsese, to me, is a master, even if he does trash on big things like Marvel. That doesn't hide him from being such a talented director. I mean, I thought Silence was a great movie. I didn't put that on my best of the year list because I didn't see it yet. That's the thing. That's why I make top 10s like this, okay? Or top 20s or whatever. I wanted to make sure to see all the movies I wanted to see before just making my list early. But, I got to see this in November. I loved every second of it. For a 3.5 hour long movie, it just goes by really fast. And that's why I watched it like 3 times, and I just never got bored. It's great to see Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, everybody come back to star in another Martin Scorsese epic. It just reminds me why I love films in general, why I love mobster movies like Goodfellas and Casino and Taxi Driver. It just shows that Martin Scorsese is one of the best directors ever. This is my favorite film from him of the decade, and this is one of my favorite films that he has made in a really long time. It's not close to as good as Goodfellas. I mean, it is close to as good as Goodfellas, in my opinion, but it's easily one of his best films. Like, one of my top 5 favorites of his. If you haven't seen this movie, if you still think it's too long and you don't want to watch it, sure, I can understand that. But all in all, The Irishman is truly a masterpiece that every Netflix owner should see, and it's easily my pick for the best movie of 2019. And there you go, you guys. That was my list for my top 20 favorite movies of 2019. Oh my god, it took so long to get this video out, but I'm glad I finally got it out, and I'm messing up my words really, really badly because, I've been thinking about what I was going to say in this, and it wasn't as good as I was hoping for it to be, but hopefully you enjoyed this list. What are your favorites of the year? Comment down below, and hopefully 2020 will be another good year for movies, and hopefully video games as well. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.